Reichman University.
Unmasking the Threat. Conversations with experts on emerging global security threats. With Gal Rappaport.
Welcome to all our listeners on Audioversity 106.2 FM, the voice of Reichman University. I'm Gal Rappaport, a researcher at the International Institute for Counter-Terrorism, and today we're honored to have with us Dr. Ariel Koch to the Institute's fourth episode of our official podcast called Unmasking the Threat, to discuss the fascinating yet often misunderstood topic, mimic warfare. Dr. Ariel Koch is a postdoctoral researcher at the Ladder School of Government Diplomacy and Strategy at Reichman University and the Director of Violent Extremism Research at ActiveFence Israel. He is a research fellow at the International Institute for Counter-Terrorism, ICT, and an expert on transnational violent extremist ideologies and movements. His work focuses on the study of extremist movements in Western liberal democracies, examining the nexus between technology, terrorism, and radicalization. Before we dive into the specifics of mimic warfare, let's set the stage with the current global context. The digital world today is more influential than ever. Social media platforms like Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok have become the battlegrounds for narratives, ideas, and, unfortunately, propaganda. During COVID-19 pandemic, we saw how memes could spread misinformation, rapidly affecting public perception and, more concerningly, behavior. Similarly, in political context, memes have been pivotal in shaping voter opinions and polarizing societies. In the context of today's discussion, extremist groups have found a powerful tool in memes. These groups use memes to recruit, radicalize, and disseminate their ideologies, often with alarming efficiency. So, Dr. Koch, given this context, could you enlighten us on what mimic warfare is and how it fundamentally differs from traditional forms of propaganda?
So, in a nutshell, I can say that memetic warfare is a form of a bottom-up information warfare that uses memes to influence opinions, behaviors, and decision-making of targeted audience. Earlier, you mentioned the coronavirus, and I must say that during the coronavirus, we saw how memes were used also to promote anti-Semitism and racism, especially against Chinese people or Asian or people of Asian ethnicity. But people are weaponizing memes, are weaponizing humor, and using it in order to promote their own agenda or their sinister causes, including inciting violence, encouraging others to engage in violent activities, and so on. We even saw some memes that encouraged people to cough on doors and spread the COVID virus in different places, including synagogues, mosques, and so on. So it's a very interesting topic, in my opinion. And if I may, so the term meme was coined by biologist Richard Dawkins in his 1976 book, The Selfish Gene, in which he described memes as, and I'm quoting him, a small cultural units of transition analogous to genes that spread from person to person by copying or imitation. Meaning, for something to be a meme, it needs to move from one person or one group to another. It needs to move and to be imitated by different actors and to be incorporated into their own terminology, agenda, and to reflect their own ideology or point of view. As memes need to move from one person or group to another, or for something to be a meme, it has to travel and to be incorporated by a new host. The internet in general, and user-generated content, or UGC, platforms in particular, they serve as the ideal space for fast and large-scale distribution of memes. Meaning, as some researchers observed, and I must emphasize the studies by Limor Schiffman of the Hebrew University in Jerusalem, who studied internet memes. So memes play today in the digital era, in the hyper-connected era that we are living in, they play today an important role, a pivotal role, as you said earlier, beyond serving as a transmitter of cultural artifacts or abstract beliefs, such as the concept of God and religion. They shape collective action and mindset. And this is something very important that we need to understand, because in many cases, we pay attention to more official propaganda or posters or text messages and statements, but we oftentimes ignore memes because we say that they are pathetic, they are funny, they are irrelevant, and what can they do? What would be the possible ramifications for such memes? But there are ramifications, and this is something that we need to understand. Memes can be images, videos, phrases, or any other media content that spreads rapidly through social networks and internet-based communication platforms. The goal of memetic warfare is to shape perceptions of people and even mobilize them to action through the spread of easily consumable and shareable units of culture. Most memes are entertaining, funny, and most importantly, harmful. Yet, and we can mention, for example, the Gangnam Style song and many others. However, there is a dark side of memes, where dark humor is blended with hate and conspiracy theories, where neo-Nazis or other extremist actors are using memes to promote their own agenda and ideology and worldview. A neo-Nazi song that I will not mention here acknowledges the role of memes when it states that if you, and I'm quoting, if you control the memes, so you control the planet. So, in a nutshell, while both memetic warfare and traditional propaganda aim to influence public perception and behavior, they differ fundamentally in their methods, mediums, and the dynamics of engagement with their target audience. Memes leverage the speed, reach, and interactive nature of digital and visual, by the way, communication platforms, whereas traditional propaganda relies on more structured and authoritative mass media channels. There are some differences that we can mention between memes and traditional propaganda. For example, memetic warfare utilizes digital platforms and social media for rapid viral dissemination. Memes can spread almost across the globe very fast, reaching large audiences quickly through sharing and reposting, meaning by the action that we often do on social media. Traditional propaganda, on the other hand, relies on traditional mass media channels, which can be slower in reaching the audience. The dissemination process involves more structured and hierarchical communication strategies. Memes are often visual, concise, humorous, or provocative, making them highly engaging and easily digestible. They can encapsulate complex ideas or sentiments in simple, shareable formats. Traditional propaganda, on the other hand, typically uses more formal and structured content, such as speeches, articles, posters, and broadcasts. The messaging is usually direct and explicit, often accompanied by detailed explanation and arguments. Memetic warfare encourages active participation from users, meaning, as I said earlier, it's a button-up phenomenon, meaning that users need to create, modify, and share their own versions of memes. This interactive nature fosters a sense of community and amplifies the reach and impact of the content. On the other hand, traditional propaganda, generally a one-way communication from a propagandist to the audience, with limited opportunities for audience to interaction or feedback. Meaning, this is like a one-way tunnel where the propagandist is sharing their content and they don't care or they don't expect for any reaction. When you post a meme, you expect for reaction from people. You expect people to share it, to promote it, to discuss it, and so on. Memetic warfare is often decentralized, with no single authoritative source, anyone can create and spread memes, leading to a more organic and grassroots dissemination process. Traditional propaganda, on the other hand, typically centralized, controlled by government, organizations, or political entities. The messaging is carefully crafted and managed by a central authority. Anyone can produce a good meme, a catchy meme that will spread fast through multiple digital platforms and mediums, oftentimes popular among the young generation. My current research focuses on how different extremist actors have weaponized memes, emphasizing the role of anti-Semitic actors in contributing to the evolution of such memes. Some recent memes I'm talking about and discussing in my upcoming articles and a book I'm working on are the paraglider, for instance, the concept of the synagogue of Satan, the blue octopus, and the fire extinguisher. Such items are very important because they spread very quickly among different audiences. Let's take the fire extinguisher as an example. It started in Poland in an incident where someone used the paraglider to shut down menorah during Hanukkah, but then it became a meme and it was spread through AI images, through text and other means among far-right extremists on the internet, including on Telegram, on 4chan, and other platforms.
So let's get into the specifics now. Your recent report on the emergence of the paraglide meme, as you just mentioned, that was published by ActiveFence, which has been adopted by both Hamas and neo-Nazi groups, highlights the intersection of different extremist ideologies. How does this meme evolve, and what makes it such a forceful symbol?
So, first, I want to say that it was also used by BLM members, by members of the Black Lives Matter movement, by left-wing radical student unions, and other actors often associated with the radical left, meaning it's not something that is unique to Islamists or jihadists like Hamas, or to far-right extremists. On the contrary, most of the people who use it are actually belong or subscribe to left-wing radical ideologies. This meme, in my humble opinion, represents the fulfillment of a fantasy, turning the dream into a reality, meaning turning the dream of murdering Jews or Israelis to reality. The reason is that only Hamas terrorists used it, and it means when someone echoes this meme, when someone promotes this meme, when someone is using the paraglider as a symbol, it stands for only one thing, for attacking Jewish people in Israel, because only Hamas members, only Hamas terrorists used the paraglider. Meaning, when you incorporate the paraglider into your own agenda, when you use it as a symbol, it means that you are associating yourself with Hamas. And as we know, it includes what happened in October 7, of course, when Hamas used the paraglider. So it includes a massacre of civilians, systematic sexual violence, and, of course, brutalities against civilians. The paraglider meme has spread very quickly since the October 7th attack. Only 2 days after, on October 9th, neo-Nazis in Florida produced a T-shirt featuring the paraglider. On October 10th, BLM Chicago propagated it on social media. On October 14, in Britain, pro-Palestine demonstrators placed a patch of the paraglider on their jackets. On October 15, a day after, neo-Nazis produced multiple memes featuring the paraglider, publishing them on 4chan, Telegram, and other social media platforms. Neo-Nazis also produced new T-shirts and sell them online, meaning the meme is used to fund neo-Nazi activities.
It's shocking to see how these symbols, and how symbols in general, can be so co-opted so rapidly. And as you mentioned, the Hamas, given the current Israel-Hamas conflict, how have memes been used by both sides, including Israel, to influence public perception and morale?
So first, I must admit that I haven't studied this topic in depth yet, meaning how it influenced public perceptions and moral. But from what I saw, Israelis are using funny, cynical, provocative memes. Many are mocking Hamas, Hezbollah, or Iran. Others mock the government or international institutions for their lack of activities. And this is the memes from the Israeli side. Israeli social media accounts and supporters often use memes to depict the constant threat of rocket attacks from Hamas. These memes aim to evoke sympathy by showing the human side of Israeli civilians living under the terrorist threat. Many Israeli memes are oftentimes humoristic, cynical, trying to raise the national morale or to mock the enemy, meaning Hamas, Iran, Hezbollah, and so on. Memes can be used to share stories of Israeli soldiers or civilians, to humanize them and emphasizing their desire for security. This helps in garnering international support and empathy. In addition, memes can be used to portray Hamas as a terrorist organization, emphasize their attacks on civilians and their use of human shields, and this intended to undermine Hamas legitimacy and highlight their tactics as inhuman. And this is what they are actually doing, right? Like hiding behind civilians. When we study or examine the Hamas use of memes, so we can say that Hamas and their supporters use memes to portray their actions as a form of legitimate resistance against occupation, against an illegal occupation. These memes often glorify their fighters and depict them as heroes defending Palestinian lands. Memes are circulated to show the impact of Israeli airstrikes on Palestinian civilians, including women and children. These images are aimed at provoking international outrage and sympathy for the Palestinian cause. Memes that mock Israeli leadership or depict the Israeli military as ineffective or overly aggressive are used to try to lower Israeli morale and to strengthen, meaning they are used as a form of propaganda to hurt Israelis, and to strengthen the resolve of their own supporters. Many of the pro-Hamas or Palestinian memes incite terrorism and violence. On Telegram, for example, there is a known Telegram channel that I will not mention here, but with thousands of followers, that since the war started on October 7, it produced hundreds, if not thousands, of images and other memes that are later shared by different terrorist organizations and others. Many of these images directly incite violence against the IDF, but also against civilians, calling for Hamas and other Palestinian terrorist organizations to raid Israeli towns and to attack civilians.
Taking this one step further, what are some of the specific strategies that these groups use to ensure their memes gain traction and spread widely?
We can say that the first thing is by sharing, meaning one of the most important aspects of internet memes is to share, right? Without sharing, no one will see it. No one will be aware of it. And you want to share because you want to expose people to the meme. And you want a reaction. Without sharing it, you won't get any reaction. Sharing content is the most important thing. Echoing the message through different mediums and using hashtags, connecting it to broader audience that can join your struggle. This is a very important thing. As I demonstrate in a new upcoming article, memes can be spread from the digital realm to the real world through videos, images, manifestos of mass shooters, social media posts, text, songs, stickers, emojis, even through action via public speeches or vandalism, like a graffiti on a synagogue that propagate a specific meme. The call to globalize the Intifada, for example, is a great example, because it was started with the Palestinians, adopted by left-wing radicals, including some militant and insurrectionary anarchists, and later was embraced by neo-Nazis, including some groups in Spain and in the United States who openly promote Intifada or call for Intifada. And as we saw over the past few weeks, where people from different ideologies demonstrating outside US campuses and calling for globalized intifada or to bring the intifada to the US. We need to understand that the meaning of intifada, especially for many Israelis, is actually terrorism. We're talking about buses that blowing up. We're talking about attacks on discotheques. We're talking about attacks on civilians in different locations. And not necessarily like attacks against the IDF or the military. We're talking about terrorism against civilians. And this is something very important, in my opinion.
These methods are indeed sophisticated. And in light of this, what can be done to counteract mimic warfare and mitigate its impact, particularly with symbols like the paraglider meme?
So, to address the challenge of combating the spread of hate online, we need increased collaboration between democratic governments, and I say it again, democratic governments, tech companies, and educational institutions. These entities must acknowledge, understand, and develop strategies to counter the evolving language of hate and its disseminations. Memes, for instance, can normalize hate. They can normalize violence. To combat this, we need to take several steps. First, to acknowledge the harmful potential of such memes. Second, to be aware of their existence. And third, to act by reporting them and ensuring they do not find a safe digital space, such as websites and so on. There are websites dedicated to memes that must remove such memes from their sites because such memes convey racist, anti-Semitic, anti-LGBTQ+, or similarly harmful messages. And if different websites and different platforms, they want to protect their users, so this is what they have to do. Responsibility for these efforts lies with a combination of activists, tech companies, governments, and educational institutions. I work for a company in the trust and safety industry, which aims to make the internet a safer place by preventing its exploitation by for malicious purposes. There is a need to educate people about online harms. This requires collaboration between, as I said earlier, between educational institutions, including universities, governments, which are responsible for education in general, and the trust and safety industry. The goal is to minimize exposure to hate speech, to misinformation, disinformation, and other online harms, as well as to thwart the efforts of extremist actors and predators.
These steps are very crucial. However, I want to take this one step forward. Can you please share with us any successful examples of the counteracting memes campaigns or initiatives that have been effectively mitigated the impact of these extremist memes?
Sure. One example that pops up in my mind is when we at ActiveFence assisted the different social media platforms, tech giants, in countering an online campaign organized by white supremacists. It started on Telegram and 4chan and then moved to other platforms. This campaign involved producing memes intended to incite black on Jew violence and black on Jew hatred, polarization in the American society, and hostilities between Afro-Americans and Jewish people and Jewish communities in the United States and elsewhere. Our process involved several key steps. First, to identify the main actors. Second, to identify the content they produced, meaning the memes they produced. Third, detecting their fake accounts used to spread the meme. And fourth and lastly, reporting these accounts to the targeted social media platforms, meaning to disable their potential to be spread on large and more moderated social media platforms. The platforms responded swiftly by deleting the involved accounts that we reported. Exposing such campaigns can help strengthen relationships between different communities that share common threats or suffer from prejudice, including the Jewish people and other protected minorities in the United States, in Europe, and so on.
It's encouraging to hear these efforts. Before we wrap up, what advice would you give our listeners who want to help combat mimic warfare in their own online interactions?
So first, we need to stay informed. We need to educate ourselves about the tactics used in memetic warfare and the kinds of messages that are often spread to sow division and hate.
In other words, listen to this podcast episode.
Definitely. Definitely. So awareness is the first step, right? To acknowledge a problem. We need to be aware that we have a problem. Without being aware of the problem, we won't be able to tackle it. We won't be able to deal with it or to solve it. So awareness is the first step in recognizing harmful content. We also need to critically evaluate content before sharing or reacting to memes. Critically evaluate their source and intent. Look for signs of manipulation or underlying messages designed to provoke negative emotions or divisive behavior. We also need to report harmful memes, meaning we need to use the reporting tools provided by social media platforms to flag content that is hateful, misleading, or violates the community guidelines. Reporting helps platforms to take action against harmful content. And this is something that in many cases we tend to ignore, but ignoring the problem will not solve it. It's just ignoring it. So we need to do something. And the small steps that we can do as users of different platforms, social media platforms, is to report problematic or harmful content. So in addition, we need to engage constructively. When you encounter someone sharing harmful memes, engage constructively. Provide factual information and express why the content is problematic without resorting to hostility. We need to encourage critical thinking and respectful dialogue. We also need to support trusted sources, meaning we need to follow and support sources of information that are reputable and committed to truth and ethical standards. Trusted sources are less likely to propagate harmful memes and misinformation or disinformation, and of course, malicious propaganda. We need to also to advocate for stronger policies, to support initiatives and policies that aim to improve online safety and hold platforms accountable for the content they host. Advocacy can lead to better regulation and enforcement against harmful content. We also need to educate others to spread awareness about memetic warfare and its impact. We need to educate our friends, family, and broader online community, and by doing this, it will help us to create a more informed and resilient network of users. Lastly, we need to promote positive content, meaning we need to share and create content that promotes unity, understanding, and respect, and mutual respect. We need to promote content that is promoting positive messaging, and positive messaging can counterbalance the negativity and division spread by harmful memes. By following these steps, I think, I'm not sure, that we will be able to reduce the impact of harmful memes and contribute to a healthier online environment.
I hope our listeners were taking notes. Dr. Koch, thank you very much for shedding light on the important topic and for providing us with such insightful advice. It's been a pleasure having you with us today, and thank you to our listeners for tuning in to Unmasking the Threat. Stay informed, stay vigilant, and join us next time as we continue to explore the rapidly evolving and complex era of digital warfare.
Thank you, Gal. It was a pleasure to be here.
Thank you.
Unmasking the Threat. Conversations with experts on emerging global security threats.